This is a demonstration of installing the IBM Cloud App Management Server for release 2018 R4. IBM Cloud Private supports multiple sizes of environments. You can install IBM Cloud Private into a single server or into a multiple server environment, depending on your scale and resiliency requirements. In my scenario, I've used multiple servers. Let's get started with the install. Let's start by accessing the IBM Cloud Private dashboard where we're going to do our installation. Open the Firefox browser and log into IBM Cloud Private. Use a user ID of admin and the appropriate password. Click Menu, Dashboard. Under the System Overview, observe there are 9 nodes and they're all active. There's 14 deployments and they're all healthy. And there's 20 gigabytes of shared storage available. Scroll down. Observe we have 40 cores and over 120 gigabytes of RAM in our cluster. This exceeds the documented requirements of 8 core and 20 gigabytes. Click Menu, Platform, Nodes. Observe we have 6 workers in our cluster, a management node, a proxy node, and a master node. Let's look at our IBM Cloud Private setup in a little more detail. Let's minimize the browser and open a terminal window. Change directory to opt IBM Cloud Private 310 cluster. Let's look at our host file. Observe our 6 workers, our master, our proxy, and our management node. Let's look at the config.yaml file and observe I've taken all the defaults except for in one area. That area is in the Management Services section. I've disabled Istio, Vulnerability Advisor, Storage Cluster FS, Storage Minio, Custom Metrics Adapter, Monitoring, and Logging. We're disabling monitoring because our ICAM monitoring provides more in-depth monitoring capabilities and we don't want to duplicate data collection. Please note that disabling logging doesn't stop all logging, just long-term log retention and analysis. We can still access the current and the prior logs for a given pod. Let's close gedit out and let's proceed with our installation of the IBM Cloud App Management Server. Change directory to a folder where I've created some scripts called Downloads My Scripts. We'll run each of these scripts during our installation process. Let's look at the first script called My Folder Create. The first step in our installation process involves creating some folders for our persistent volumes. A majority of our services to run IBM Cloud App Management are stateless, meaning these services can run on any of your worker nodes. Some services, such as Cassandra, are stateful. We need to keep historical metric data and we need a local file system to retain the data. That's why we create persistent volumes for these services. So this simple script will SSH into each of our 6 worker nodes and make a directory to hold the persistent volume which will be created later. The directory names are customizable, but they must match what you use to create the persistent volumes. Let's run the script. And let's validate that it was able to create these folders. And if we look at the last one, we can assume the other 5 worked. So let's SSH into 9.42.74.224, which is where we created the K8s data layer directory. And let's list the contents of the directory for K8s data. And if we can see that it exists, we know the folder creation was successful. We can see it exists, so we validated that the script worked. Let's exit out of this SSH session. Next, we need to configure our terminal window to be able to run Kubernetes commands. Easiest way to do that is to return to your IBM Cloud Private environment and select the icon in the upper right. Select Configure Client, and then select the copy icon to configure the command line interface. It's copied into your clipboard. Let's minimize this window and return to our terminal window and right click and then select Paste. The Kubernetes commands to configure our environment are run. Next, I'm going to run the Cloud Control login command. Cloud Control login -a, and give it the URL of your cluster. In my case, mycluster.icp 8443, and let's skip SSL validation. Provide the username and password and select an account. In my case, my cluster account. You're then prompted to select a namespace. Note you could create your own namespace and use that at this point. I'm going to use the default namespace. Enter 2. Kubernetes is reconfigured in this case because we already configured it from the copy and paste commands we did earlier. Let's change directory now to where we downloaded our installation media, which in my case is Downloads ICAM Server. List the contents of that folder. Let's extract this file into a folder called Charts. So run the command tar.xvf, file name, followed by the word Charts. This command will take several minutes to run. A second extraction needs to take place. Run the command tar xvf charts / then the file that was extracted, which is IBM Cloud App Management prod 120.tgz. This extraction will take much less time. Please note you can ignore the implausibly old timestamp warning messages. Next, let's log into Docker. Docker, login, give it your cluster name. For me, it's mycluster.icp, port 8500. Username admin, give it a password. The next step is to run the Cloud Control catalog load archive command. Provide an operand of --archive and the file name of the installation media. Your Docker images are loaded, tagged, and pushed into your Docker repository. This process will take about 30 minutes. When this loading process completes, the Helm charts are uploaded and your Helm charts are synced in your Docker repository. Change directory into the IBM Cloud App Management prod folder. Let's review another script called mypreparepv, which I've created to run the preparepv command. The preparepv command is found under the additional files folder on the current directory we're in. It takes multiple operands, which is why it's easier to put in a script. Size 0 indicates this is a small demonstration environment. We provide the release name and the hard-coded IP addresses for our nodes for Cassandra, Kafka, Zookeeper, Mongo, CouchDB, and Data Layer. We also indicate we're creating local persistent volumes, not volumes on a Gluster FS environment. Let's run the script, which will run this command. The script runs, and it's going to create a series of YAML files in the YAML subfolder under the current directory. You can see at the bottom of the output of the script it says you need to run a kubectl create -f command to process these YAML files and to actually do the creation of the persistent volumes. So let's do the kubectl create command as spelled out in the script. Kubectl create -f additional files, back up to the current folder, and then point to the YAML subfolder. Command runs. You can see it created multiple persistent volumes and storage classes that will be used by IBM Cloud App Management. Our third and final custom script is named mypreinstall. Let's review the contents. The preinstall command resides again in the additional files subdirectory. We can accept the license agreement, provide the release name, indicate a namespace. I've used default. You can use your own namespace. Provide your hard-coded IP addresses for your master node and your proxy node. Fully qualified host name, not the short name for the proxy host name. Indicate your cluster domain. Optionally, you can send emails out for incidents that are detected by the IBM Cloud App Management tool. If you intend to do so, you provide your email type. This can be SMTP or API. If you go SMTP, you got to provide all the details about your SMTP server. Since I'm using the SendGrid tool, my email type is API. In either case, you got to give it an email from field. And since I'm using API, I must give it the SendGrid key. The last operand indicates if you're working with the base or the advanced offering, and be sure to specify whichever one you're entitled to. So let's run the script. You can see it creates some keys, creates some secrets, and it also creates the IBM Cloud App Management.values.yaml file. Next, we run the kubectl create -f default IBM Cloud App Management image policy.yaml command, and this will create our default IBM Cloud App Management image policy. So we've done all our preparations. Now let's do the install of the Helm chart. Helm install. Give it your Helm release name. I'm going to go with IBM Cloud App Management. --values. Let's point to our IBM Cloud App Management values.yaml file. We point to where we extracted the Helm chart, which in my case is downloads ICAM server charts. IBM Cloud App Management prod 120.tgz. And don't forget to add the --tls on the end of this Helm install command. So the easiest way to monitor how your Helm chart install is going is to return to IBM Cloud Private. So let's return to IBM Cloud Private and close the Configure Client dialog. Select Menu, Dashboard. Observe the deployment section in the dashboard where you've gone from 100% healthy on 14 out of 14 deployments to now we're 14 healthy out of 42 deployments. As these pods come up, this percentage will change. For me, it took about 8 minutes for these pods to totally initialize. Let's look at the Helm release. Select Menu, Workloads, Helm Releases. Scroll down and locate the Helm release with the name IBM Cloud App Management. Observe it's in the default namespace and the status is deployed. Select IBM Cloud App Management. This gives us more details on the Helm release. Observe the chart name, the namespace, the current version, available version, and let's scroll down all the way down to the pods section. Now let's look at these lists of these pods. You can see the name of the pod, the number of instances of the pod, whether it's 1 out of 1 or 2 out of 2 or 3 out of 3, the status of the pod, the number of restarts, and the age of the pod. You can see they're all in running state and all of the instances are up. Let's scroll further down in this Helm release, details about it. Look at the other information that's there. I want to highlight under the notes, it talks about a command called post install setup.sh. We'll run this command shortly. So let's return to our terminal window. And before we run our post install, I'm going to show you another way to get the status of your pods. It's the kubectl get pods command. You can add operands to make the display it a little easier to read. I've made it to go wide, and I've sorted it by node name. Also zoomed out a little bit on the terminal window so you can see the status of all the pods on one screen. So next, let's run our post-install setup command. We provide it the release name, IBM Cloud App Management, give an instance name. I'm going to make it IBM Cloud App Management. Provide the namespace. In my case, that's default. And since we're entitled to an advanced install, we're going to provide the advanced operand. So the post-install script runs. You can see it's checking if all the pods have become ready. They are, as we checked earlier. You can see it doing the registration. Service instance is created, and it waits for the dashboard to become ready. The very final line of the script gives you the URL to log into IBM Cloud App Management. So let's copy that into our clipboard. Edit copy. And let's return to our Firefox browser and open a new tab. So let's open a new tab and paste the contents of our clipboard into the address. Press enter. So we have a self-signed certificate. So let's click Advanced, scroll down, click Add Exception, click Confirm Security Exception. Provide credentials to log into IBM Cloud Private again. That's admin, an appropriate password. And then there's your Welcome to IBM Cloud App Management Advanced. There's a couple of other ways to get to this same URL. Let's explore them next. Return to IBM Cloud Private, select Menu, Workloads, Brokered Services. Observe IBM Cloud App Management under the Brokered Services list. Click Launch. Observe it takes us to the same URL and the same Welcome to IBM Cloud App Management screen. A third way to get to the login screen is to open up the terminal window and run the command kubecontrol describe service instance IBM Cloud App Management. Examine the output and look for the field dashboard URL in the middle of the page. Let's highlight the string, do edit, copy. Let's return to IBM Cloud Private, open a new tab, and paste this URL into the browser. And we go back to the exact same login screen. Let's bookmark this URL for future reference. That completes the installation of the IBM Cloud App Management Server. You're now ready to go install some agents.